Welcome, everybody. How many of you, this is your first summit ever?
Holy crap.
That is awesome.
Outstanding.
Are you all, is everybody here Satellite 5 or in the middle of transitioning from Satellite 5 to Satellite 6? Are some people just here because they're curious what satellite is? Okay,
They all know.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. The right audience. Otherwise, I'd say, we have a roadmap session tomorrow, which I recommend if you're all interested. We'll be talking a little bit of, I'll give you a sample of roadmap, but we're going to definitely focus on the transition process. So I'm Todd Warner, this is Rich Dorito. We're both with Red Hat, and then Will Darton, he's from Navy Federal Credit Union. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kick things off, talk a smidgen of roadmap associated with Satellite 6, and a little bit on Satellite 5, in case you're interested. And then Rich is going to talk about the different methodologies of transition and do a little demo. And then Will's going to talk about his experiences moving to 6. So anyway, I'm definitely pleased that you're all here. It's been a long road with Satellite. I've been there the entire time, 15 years now with that team. And we're pretty proud of the product. So one thing that we want to talk about is as we're moving forward, Satellite, part of the reasons that we've been moving to the new platform, I'm sure you guys have seen it in the messaging, the literature and whatnot, is that systems management is definitely changing. You guys, I'm sure, are feeling it. We've got a lot of traditionalists out there still, and or trying to bolt traditional methodologies on top of new methodologies. So it's the IT is no longer just systems management, or systems management is no longer what it used to be, and neither is Red Hat. Red Hat used to be a Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Satellite company. Now we have a whole mess of technologies, and a lot of it is associated to management. Now we have a very robust platform. So we have Satellite, CloudForms, Ansible, and Insights. I hope you visit each of their booths today, if you have not already, and tomorrow. Our management platform is no longer just Satellite and traditional management. Whoa, it's sensitive. So what is Satellite 6 today? Upstream is forming. That is our primary Upstream project, but it is definitely a more modular set of projects, and under the covers is Catello, Puppet, Candlepin, and Pulp. And of course, there's more things like Postgres and Mongo and whatnot. And Upstream, though, we're adding in, and this is just a hint of some of the roadmap for tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about Ansible and Atomic, i.e. container stuff. 6.2 is coming out end of July. I'm not going to dwell on this until tomorrow, but if you guys are playing with 6.2, I don't know if I got to show. How many of you actually have hands-on with 6.2 or 6 so far? Okay, good. So lots of improvements. Big one is remote execution, scheduling. If you have multiple satellites, we're improving the syncing process. Lots of improvements in how you manage those capsules and how you visually see those capsules. Documentation is vastly improved in Satellite 6, 6.2. And then we're also going to add in a conversation about atomic hosts and containers. This is kind of the roadmap, very high level. We are going to be releasing a 5.8, and 5.8 will be the platform that Satellite 5 is scheduled to die on someday. Okay? So if you're on 5.6, 5.7, we're going to be releasing 5.8 probably early next year, depends on some scheduling conflicts. And then just start thinking about it. It's not a huge bump from 5.7, but it's got some, what it does is it positions us to maintain it long-term over time. All right, so I'm going to hand this off to Rich. He's going to talk about process, and away you go.
All right. So I get the fun part. I get to talk about how you get to actually move from Satellite 5 to Satellite 6. So is there anyone in here that is on Satellite 5.5 and below? All right, so we got a few of you guys. First thing I'm going to tell you guys is get to Satellite 5.6 or better, please. You actually still support that one. Most importantly, some of the tools that you'll have access to with Satellite 5.6 or above might be useful in planning transition. So one methodology that we have, which is the first methodology, is migrating both your clients and your content. Right? The idea is that you take your Satellite 5 installation, you pull out metadata and artifacts of that installation, you then use that metadata and artifacts to model a Satellite 6 installation. Sounds pretty straightforward, actually works pretty well. Here's how I feel about it. It's quick and easy, and it works. Okay? However, what you're effectively doing is you're making Satellite 6 look like Satellite 5. There are a lot of really new things in Satellite 6 that you may not take advantage of. If you had a really, really crappy way of cloning channels, you're going to have really, really crappy imported content views. Okay? So this methodology works. However, it's not really an in-place upgrade, right? Install.pl --upgrade will not take you from Satellite 5 to 6. Please do not open up an RFE for that because we won't fix it. Just to let you guys know. Okay? It does ignore all the best practices around content views and lifecycle environments. Right? Those are two major core things in Satellite 6 that the transition tools don't really understand because the transition tool is trying to map one-to-one between Satellite 5 and 6. I can't map something to a construct that never existed in Satellite 5. Okay? It also hides all of the really, really good stuff, and then it makes you upset because after we do all of this, it's still not Satellite 5. Okay? It's Satellite 6. Implemented sort of kind of like Satellite 5. All right, where's the clicker? Migration method number 2, which is my favorite. This is the one I like to support the most. You're still going to have to migrate the clients. No matter what, we're going to have to at some point migrate the clients. However, we're going to build new content, new workflows. We're going to do everything correct, the Satellite 6 way. Okay, and that has a whole bunch of upside. Okay, it's my favorite. Why? You get to use all the good stuff in Satellite 6. So I'll sit up here and I'll tell you 1,000,001 times that content views are the greatest thing known to man. They probably aren't, but they're actually pretty good. And you get to take advantage of that. We also, and I'm going to take a show of hands here, how many folks in here know that we offer the ability to run a Satellite 5 and Satellite 6 in parallel for a year? How many people know that? Okay. How many of you people who are Satellite 5 customers did not know that? Well, now you do. Use this method. Okay? We give you a 1-year transition subscription with the whole intention that you build your Satellite 6 in parallel to your Satellite 5. It's a one-to-one mapping we give you. So if you have 1 Satellite 5 and 4 proxies, we will give you 1 transition Satellite 6 and 4 transition Satellite 6 capsules. So you can build that infrastructure completely in parallel. Because I know not everybody in here patches that often, right? And we all know we probably could patch better. And we are even more conservative about patching the thing that patches the RHEL systems that we don't patch. Okay? So I know you need time to do it. So use that transition subscription, build the best Satellite 6 that you could possibly build, and we have documentation and reference guides, reference architecture, solution guides to help you guys build the absolute best Satellite 6 that you can build. You got a whole year to do it. Okay? And then when it makes sense, migrate over the clients that we can migrate over, because we can't migrate them all. I know some of y'all got RHEL 4, RHEL 3, RHEL 2. I met a customer here that has Red Hat 7 still on the floor. You can't migrate that to Satellite 6, but that's fine. Using this method, you have the time to do it. Okay? You have the ability to say, well, when the next change window comes for these dev systems, I'll migrate them over to Satellite 6, right? And move those systems when it makes a lot of sense to do it. The only downside to this, really, when you really sit down and think about it, is that it takes a lot of thought up front. And hopefully we blunt that pain by giving you the transition subscriptions. So in the customer portal, I have this really cool flow chart that I've actually simplified since last year. And effectively what the flow chart helps you with is deciding which methodology is best for you to take. Okay? The most important thing that's probably new since last year is what I'm going to show you in demo today, which is the new Bootstrap script, which is a very simplified means of taking a RHEL system, which is registered to Satellite 5, getting it properly wired up and migrated over to Satellite 6. So I'm going to skip the content view stuff and go straight to Bootstrap. Okay, so the Bootstrap script, it is my pet project. I am proud to say that when you run bootstrap.py, think of me. I wrote most of it, okay? So you send me karma, send me cookies, whatever. But it does a whole bunch of stuff that you probably don't even know you need to do. Okay? So one of the things that we do is we install Subscription Manager. Anybody in here have a RHEL system previous to 5.7, registered to Satellite 5? You don't have Subscription Manager. You're going to need it. Okay? So we install that. We also have to do a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that we set up Puppet correctly if you're leveraging Puppet inside of Satellite 6. Whole bunch of API stuff. We have to install some Bootstrap RPMs. The other thing is that if you built the RHEL system prior to RHEL 5.7, you do not have product certificates installed in your system. And half of you are probably shaking your head like, what the heck is a product cert? Don't worry about it. It's magic. We take care of it. But it's the required dependency of Subscription Manager in order to register to a Subscription Manager-based platform. That's Customer Portal or Satellite 6. We take care of that. We know that if you're registered to a RHEL system or RHEL 6 channel, to install the correct product certificate so that you can be properly wired up on the satellite side. The other thing that we do is we give you the ability to register that system directly to a Satellite 6 server or to a Satellite 6 capsule. So you may have to deploy Satellite 6 capsules for scale and availability. Bootstrap will take care of that for you. It also configures the system with a proper Puppet configuration. Make sure you're in a correct host group, does a Puppet run, and make sure we get the correct Puppet cert requested. And if you are not using Puppet as included in Satellite 6, I know some of you are still using Community Puppet or Puppet Enterprises Puppet. That's totally fine. We got a skip Puppet switch just for you. Okay? And then the last thing we do is we clean up all the old stuff that we used to have. OSAT, we get rid of that. You've been trying to do that for years anyway. RHNSD, any of the old spacewalk, the client tools and dependencies, we remove all of those. And that's all the things we do with bootstrap.py. There's probably, I think, at least a good 20 to 25 switches and components that we support. But the idea is for you, as a Satellite 5 user, you should be able to run one command, take a system from Satellite 5, from Classic, not even registered to another platform. So let's say you inherited 50 systems that never had any management. You now could just run bootstrap.py, get them registered into Satellite 6. Okay, and that's fully supported. It's in the Satellite 6.2 beta, and it's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, so as I mentioned, it is in 6.2 beta. It's installed in the Catello client Bootstrap package. It is installed by default on every satellite and every satellite capsule. Okay, and it's in var www pub, var www HTML pub, just like the bootstrap.sh was in Satellite 5. And basically, the workflow is download it, make it executable, run it, and now you have a registered system, Satellite 6. All right, so I'm going to show a demo, and then I'm going to pass it over to Will. You can hold that.
So while Richard's setting up, I just wanted to say I wrote the Satellite 5 version of the Bootstrap script. And so it's obvious that they're pushing out the old and introducing the
so we
young.
We use you for inspiration.
Exactly.
Except my code's better.
All right.
I'll check it on Monday. It'll be in Bugzilla, don't worry.
Exactly. So he mentioned the beta. The beta is ongoing right now. It's public. So if you want to get involved, just look on our portal for information about the beta, and please get involved. We've gotten a tremendous amount of good feedback, and people are really liking what they're seeing with Satellite 6.2. And as Satellite 5 folks, we closed some of those little gaps that folks have been wanting us to close, and I think you'll be happy with what you see. Yes? Going from beta to general, so he's asking, do we have a supported upgrade for that?
Not for beta.
Not for beta. We don't have a supported upgrade from beta to GA. However,
if you build your Satellite 6 system using Hammer CLI, you just replay your script. That's generally what I do. If I need to go rebuild it, because you have to tear down the beta anyway, so you might as well build it using Hammer CLI. That way you have all the automation, and then that way when you go to the GA, you just replay your automation script, and then off you go. Okay? All right. I need like 3 minutes. I'm good. So, anyhow, I've saved saved you guys the wget command. I think everyone has seen a wget command before. I don't need to demonstrate that. So I pulled down bootstrap.py. If you run it, it gives you a whole crap ton of options that you need to supply. So I'm going to hit clear and go ahead and run this. Bootstrap.py. Actually, check those again. There we go. If you're doing Puppet stuff, you have to provide a username because we have to make an API call to create the Puppet host. If you're not doing Puppet stuff, you just need an activation key, no username, password. Server name, mysatellite.example.com. Oh, poor satellite. My organization name is Red Hat. My location is RDU. My host group is, actually, let me check my host group. Actually pull my satellite window over here so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So we go to configure host groups. See, I have a number of host groups here. So I'm going to use my rel 7 crash host group. This will be rel 7/crash. And I need, oops, yeah, and an activation key. Let me find my activation keys. All right, content, activation keys, and off we go. Okay. Got that. And
So if you're not familiar with Satellite 6, you'll see that there's some similar ideas. For example, activation keys. Host groups kind of map more towards the system profile-ish. It's a system definition where you link all your stuff together for provisioning purposes and defining what the end system's going to be.
So, case matters. You guys are supposed to be paying attention to catch me from doing that stuff. All right, let me just get at another run. Was that? Is it finished? No, I just started. Jesus. You guys are a tough crowd. All right. I have a password. Oh, actually, that one worked pretty well.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm kind of scared. So.
It's going to be like that, Todd. It's going to be like that. Right. Okay, let's get this another
At a 12-year head start. So.
Alrighty. So, So the Bootstrap script goes through, pulls down the consumer RPM, registers the system via subscription manager, goes ahead and installs the Catello agent, and it's pretty verbose by default. We actually have another verbose switch if you wanted to make it really, really verbose. But installs Catello agent, installs, my activation key's jacked up, but that's fine. I'm talking through this now. Okay, so it installs the Catello agent, and then lastly, in the UI, if you actually refresh, it should show up here in the UI, and it'll go through and it'll finish up all of the other Puppet stuff. Okay, so it's a pretty straightforward script. I need to give Will back some time, so I'm not going to go debug this right now. But if you want to see the Bootstrap, come see me in the booth, and I'll show it to you. But it's pretty straightforward. Give it the right parameters, and it runs. Give it the right options, it runs. In my case, my activation key doesn't enable the repo that has Catello agent in it. That's why I failed. So that's the reason why. So it isn't the demo guides, it's me. I jacked up. But anyhow, I'm going to pass it over to Will so he could talk to his strategies on how he started doing stuff. What's that, 6? Should be good. All right.
Thumbs up, something worked in Satellite. I love you guys. My name's Will. I work for Navy Federal Credit Union. I've been there for about 4 years. Got a couple setup questions. Anybody a Navy Federal member? Any hands, anybody? A couple of you. Thank you very much for your membership. I appreciate it. It helps my paycheck every year. Anybody from USAA? Bye. See you guys. No, it's cool. Thanks for coming. I thought you guys were doing a session this year, and so I was kind of looking forward to seeing both sides of it, but I guess it didn't happen. So anyway, I have been a long-time Satellite user, going on since 2006 now, I think, probably. It feels like forever some days. I was brought into Navy Federal about 4 years ago to advocate, and that's the new word. You can't use evangelize anymore, but advocate Red Hat Enterprise Linux. At the time, there was no standardization for Red Hat, and they wanted to make it a platform within the enterprise that was supported and whatnot. So that's what my function was, and obviously I brought Satellite with me. I've been using it for a long time, so been a long, crazy 4 years. We've had some really explosive growth. I think I did the math just now, and something like 229% growth since I started in 2012. So in 4 years, we've We've gone from 60 systems that were completely unmanaged to we're actually over 700 now of managed systems within the Satellite 5 environment. Bigger than a red box and smaller than a prime pantry. So I came up with this as a point, and then after I did it, I was like, wait, I have a reason for this. So when we started out, we had one loaf of bread. Everything was, it was Wonder Bread or whatever. Everybody had the same kind of bread. Anybody prime pantry users, right? You can put all this stuff in a box, and it gets sent to you, and that's kind of where we're at now. There's like all kinds of stuff. I got laundry detergent. I got, whatever you want going into that box for my end users. So it's changed a lot as far as the application requirements, but one of the things that stayed the same is that our underlying operating system is homogeneous. We pretty much provide a cookie-cutter version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the whatever tools we need for management, to every system across the board. They are patched on a regular cycle every month and rebooted in the non-prod environments every month, every first and second Thursday. And this was a culture thing. When I came in, I said, this is how it's going to be. If you want RHEL as your platform, this is what's going to happen. So, and it worked. I mean, and they're okay with it. And actually, I think you find once you do that and you set your users up with that expectation, it actually goes really well. And in our prod environments, we actually put it on them. You're required to patch by XYZ date. If you don't do it, we're going to do it for you. So that we give them the lead to hang themselves. If they don't, then we'll do it for them. So we had to set that culture up. It's really important to get buy-in from our application people, and we got that. The applications are basically agnostic to the operating system. They don't care. We set them up. I won't say containerized because that's not actually what we've done, but we've made them so that they don't care what the operating system is. Okay, so why does this all matter? For Satellite to work really well, you have to have this sort of baseline, to make management a little bit easier. Content views add something really cool where you can version a lot easier at the host group level. So that's going to be something cool about Satellite 6 that we're adjusting for, so that if we do have an app platform that needs to be at a certain level, we can use them at a certain host group, at a certain content view version that'll keep them there as long as they need to be. While maintaining our compliance, hopefully. So our strategy was strategy 2, the preferred method. Satellite 5 has been a great tool for a long time, but it has a lot of stuff in it that it was time to go. It was time to be new and fresh. And when 6.0 came out, I was really excited about the change in philosophies that came with it as far as how you're going to manage your systems and the future capabilities that are going to come with it. So we've made the decision to cut 5, move to 6. The extra benefit is that we have a few legacy systems that we get to kick to the curb quickly because we're telling them, hey, it's not supported anymore. We don't have any way to manage it, so you need to figure out a way to get your stuff off to RHEL 6. So since 6 came out, I've had it. I've had 6 out. I had 6.1 rebuilt, put 6.1 out. We weren't really happy. That's probably an understatement. It just didn't. If you were a 5 guy, these things were there, and if you saw 6, they weren't there. So we've been waiting. We've been waiting like a lot of you, and when 6.2 came out a month ago, beta.
First beta.
Beta, yeah, okay. When that came out, I was very excited. First off, I get excited about Satellite. I know it's crazy, but this is one of the coolest tools. I thought it's been a great tool all along. So when 6.2 beta came out and they announced all the features that were in it, I was incredibly excited. And much to my surprise, it actually met my expectations. So in our transition strategy here, we've been testing 6.2 beta out pretty extensively for the last month. 6.2 beta 2 dropped a week and a half ago. I had just gotten back from vacation. So I've had about 10, 15 working days on Satellite 6.2 beta 2, and it's even better. So I'm assuming that the GA release, God's willing, the end of July, will actually start our transition. We have a pretty large lab environment that's on it right now, and it's all test systems with varying applications that are actually deployed in our prod environments. We've deployed them out into our lab environments just as a test bed so that we can see what happens. We've been working on, we have a lot of API work that's all custom. We have a custom web front end for system provisioning and system unification with our CMDB, our inventory system, and the Red Hat system, as well as our configuration management platform. We are not going to be using Puppet. If you're an AIX person, I'm sorry, we're a big AIX shop, and so we had to go with Chef because IBM has sort of blessed Chef as their preferred configuration management tool, and it works for us. It's going to work well cross-platform, and we've actually integrated it with Satellite 6 to some extent, and it'll work great for us. But we've had to do the API retooling because the API is completely different. If I can make a suggestion, look up a tool called Nailgun that is out there and in the wild. It is a great API wrapper.
Yeah.
Wrapper. I just found out about it not too long ago, and it's made the work of using the API much, much better, much easier. So we've had to work through all this feature testing and all the things that if you guys have custom reporting and anything like that, the API is totally different. You're going to have to rewrite everything, at least the calls to get your information. Plus, we've had a cultural shift. We've started using this crazy tool called Git. So for Unix or Linux people, it's really not a problem. Our AIX people seem to have an issue with, I don't understand why I have to put something in a repository. And I don't understand why I can't just push it out there. And so we're having to teach them and breed this new culture. And so that's taking some time. Like I said, the configuration management Chef so we're all learning Chef. And that's also taking some time. And then the new processes around Satellite 6 as far as how we're going to manage things and making sure we can still maintain our level of compliance and patch level or whatnot. So we, like you guys, we all report to somebody in information security who sees a pretty little graph, and if it turns red, they freak out. So that's, of course you can adjust the numbers, but whatever. Who does that? So, right? So, yeah, what?
I don't want to.
Yeah, all right. So what we've learned in this long 2-year trek with Satellite 6 has been, for me, it's been be patient with the Satellite guys. 6.0 is a completely different product. These guys have spent a lot of time working on it, and I really appreciate it because I think where they're going is it's going to be a really cool tool, and it is really a really cool tool. 6.2 is going to really, really make the difference for everybody. But you need to take the time. You guys, like they said, use your 1 year side by side. You can bug your rep and maybe get a couple extra months if you need it. I'm not saying that from experience, but it's like a year.
We're no longer sanctioning anything, Wilson.
You're blacklisting all your bugs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? Use Bugzilla extensively. So get the beta. Get the beta, download it. Start tomorrow. Start Monday. If you're thinking that next year, when they think they're actually going to, get rid of Satellite 5, you're going to be going to 6. Yeah, and I can already hear the squealing. And no, it's not going to happen. So, and that's what I said too. But you need to get it. Get 6.2 GA when it comes out and start messing with it. If you don't know content views and you've never looked at content views, there's a pretty fair number of you that have seen 6. Check it out. Really get deep with and crazy with content views. Understand all of the things. Go to all the sessions here so you can find out what you need to know. But really educate yourself because if you just try and slap Satellite 6.2 in there, you're going to really have massive headaches and people complaining. The documentation team have done a fantastic job with 6.2. I don't know that I've met any of them since I've been here, but they've really done a number on the documentation. The SOE is a little outdated. It's on 6.0, but the SOE doc is a great reference doc for figuring out how to build out your satellite environment. I think the basics of it are there.
Yeah, the quick start guide effectively replaces it.
Okay, cool. So, and I did use that to build the 6.2 beta too.
There you go.
I used my documentation. But don't try and do it without the documentation either. Like Satellite 5, if you guys have installed it 14 times, you kind of got it, But 6 doesn't work like that. The installer is kind of cool. It's pretty handy, but you really need to know what you're doing to get all the stuff set up, all your host groups and all the content views. And I'm not going to talk about container utilization, the container parts of it or anything. We're looking at it, but it's not something that we've really extensively tested, so I don't really want to comment on it. But the one thing I will comment on 6.2 Beta 2 that I know, who was here last year and saw me on the panel? Anybody remember? Thank you. Cool. We didn't get yelled at a lot last year. It was actually a good panel. And the number one thing that everybody has complained about is remote execution. I can say this because I'm a customer. I don't work for Red Hat. It works. It actually works, and it works great. I was so happy to see that the first time I said, go do that thing, it went and did it, So, and it's even pretty, too, so it actually looks really good. Yeah. Like the old satellites, done. Oh, cool, great. That's Todd's, right? So the new one's rich, it's all stylish, and right? So, but the transition process, you need to have a plan. Rich's Bootstrap stuff, this is pretty phenomenal. As a matter of fact, that's the first I just heard of it, so as soon as I get back to my office, I'll be checking it out. I'd already written my own. But if his is supported by Red Hat, that's what you do. So.
We accept pull requests.
Yeah, and and contribute. So, but do get it. Do check it out. Do ask questions. Do ask submit tickets.
Use the portal.
Yeah, use the portal.
The discussion panels in the portal. There are a lot of satellite customers who have probably already been through what you're getting ready to go through.
Rich and I troll it pretty regularly.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I'm there. Brian contributes a lot in the customer portal. A lot of the documentation people contribute directly. There's, you got the normal KCS article stuff, but there's a lot of discussions that happen in the portal where various folks talk about, well, these are the best practices from Red Hat, and here's my application of the best practices based on my needs. Maybe this will help you, right? You have the customer portal. Your all paying customers got logins. Right. By all means, use it. It also helps sometimes because I do troll the portal, so you get information from me sometimes. Right. You can skip a couple layers of bureaucracy.
People. So it's but the biggest thing I'm saying really important. Take time. Take lots of time. So take your time with it and ask Red Hat for help or ask the community for help. So. And have fun with it because it's a cool tool. Honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with 6.2. I'm actually really happy to finally have a product that's doing what I expect it to do. So, yes.
So, just curious what your experience has been. Do you find it sufficient to have only a production satellite instance, or do you see value in having a development instance for you and the team to work with?
As somebody over here alluded to, it was you. Number one, don't put beta on your prod system and expect to, so it's obviously, right? There's no upgrade path there. So for our environment, we actually have both. We have a lab system that we're using to sort of our integration environment to figure out how we're going to hook all the pieces together and everything. And then we have our production environment, which is what we decided to be production. They're not synced in any way. They're not connected in any way. They're not part of an inter-satellite sync or anything like that. They're just completely separate. So, and yes, there's value. At least I think there is. So,
what do you recommend as a licensing arrangement for the lab system?
I'll take that one.
Oh yeah,
I'm out. He's like, I'm the customer. So what we usually say, obviously you have to purchase 2 satellites, but what we commonly see customers do is purchase what we have called a satellite starter pack, which is a severely discounted satellite meant for smaller customers. The only limitation is that you can only manage up to 50 systems with it, but it is a lower cost option if you wanted to deploy a satellite in that lab environment without having to spend the full price for a satellite. Just got to manage less than 50 systems.
Are any of you active in the open source community for Upstream for either Satellite 5 or Satellite 6? Good to see a few hands there. As well as being in the portal forums and all that, IRC is very active on Freenode for Foreman
and satellite
and satellite and spacewalk, and there's lots of customers there that you can bounce ideas from real time. So that's something else to consider.
The one thing that's missing on your resources board, which is fairly easy to remember, in GitHub, there is a new satellite organization in GitHub. So github.com/Red Hat Satellite, all together, one word. What we started doing was we started curating all the various scripts and add-ons and things that various customers, partners, Red Hat people have written based on satellite. Because what I was realizing internally, it was like, there are a lot of Red Hat consultants who were like, I had to go write this cool script to do this thing for my customer, and I open sourced it, but it's like on his random account somewhere on GitHub. And then I did the same thing, and the next thing you know, everyone has like 2 scripts in their seat cushions. I'm like, let's get these things curated in one place. So now, what I'm effectively trying to do is, between the portal community, which we have, as well as the GitHub organization we have, is I want to go further in building a satellite community a community of satellite customers, so you guys can contribute amongst yourselves and share stuff, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So Will doesn't have to write a Bootstrap script that I effectively deprecate, right? So that's really the idea of that. The resources we have on the board, the big transition guide.
Mine might have worked first.
Yeah, yours might have worked first. Mine supported. Okay. But the All Things Transition, that's basically the page you go to get your transition subscriptions if you don't have them. If you have already requested a transition subscription and it has expired, that page will not work for you anymore. We only let you self-service it once. Call your account rep. I think your account rep will come beg me and we'll work it out. The overview to the Bootstrap, that's in the customer portal. What I generally do for most new features, the big ticket ones, we write what we call feature overviews. Feature overviews are how to use the feature in a basic use case, the use cases behind it, as well as video of the feature in action. Okay? So for Bootstrap, ISS, remote execution, you'll see feature overviews for those. The flow chart that we talked about, that's the planning your satellite document. 10 steps to an SOE document, download it, everyone. I'm going to check your history when I see you. Okay? It is an outstanding document on how to build a really good Satellite 6 using all the best practices for building a Satellite 6. Now, I will warn you, it is a 300-plus page document. It was written by one of my verbose German friends, but it is an outstanding document. Okay, so please read that document. And then lastly, the knowledge page in the portal has a whole ton of other KCSs and articles that will help you in your satellite travels. And they're kind of broken out by topic, so like content, provisioning, subscription management, or what have you. With that being said, we're going to open it up for more questions. Gentleman here.
Well, did you have to implement weird who services for mapping hypervisor?
So we are using virtual data center licensing in Satellite 6 for all of our, that's the VirtWho services, yeah. And
Well, those mappings between hypervisor and digital posts, how you...
yeah, it's it works just like the documentation says. You pretty much hook up VirtWho on a system that's there, and all of a sudden you end up with however many ESX hosts sitting in your satellite. No, it's actually with 6.2 beta 2, it's working perfect. So there was some issue in 6.2 beta original, but it was fixed in the beta 2 release, and it's working flawlessly.
There was a Ruby on Rails change
Yeah,
that impacted our ability to import the VirtWho information.
Yeah, and that's pretty tricky. The only thing I don't like about it, which I think I'm going to do at RFE, is that you have all these extra content hosts in there that you're not managing, right? And so it's just an extra thing. You can weed it out. You can make a custom whatever, but I don't know. Maybe there's something else we can do to clean it up. But it does work, and actually it's really, really handy for provisioning new hosts. They just pick up that subscription as soon as they're provisioned. So,
Gentleman right there with the black shirt, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so is that only work with Rev, or is that work with VMware as well?
It works on all of the supported Red Hat hypervisors. So RHEL OSP, Red Hat Enterprise Virt, VMware, Hyper-V, as well as libvirt-based hypervisors.
And what's the name of that technology? I'm sorry.
VirtWho, VIRT-Who. It's required if you have an unlimited subscription or a virtual data center subscription. Yes, sir.
So we've been migrating from 5 to 6 for a while now, and we've had some issues with hammer clean import
Right.
to transition content from 5 to 6. We've had a case open for many months, and we just can't figure out what the bug is.
Okay.
Are you aware of the status of that?
I am not, but if we could, so the question was, he has a currently outstanding ticket on the Hammer template import utility, which is used for bringing over kickstarts from 5 to 6, right? Is that what you're using?
All satellite content from 5 to 6.
Right. So what I would say would be just reach out to your account team after Summit, and we can track that down, because I don't have the bug number. I can't speak to it further than that. All right. Going. You already asked one. I need to get someone else. The gentleman way in the back. They should be. Usually every summit they put them up, so I'm going to assume yes. It would be on the summit page under sessions. They should have them posted. Sometime this week, if not early next week, they usually post all the PDFs. I know we had to submit them so that they could.
Yeah, and I know that this one's slightly dated, so I think the new one's being refreshed.
That's fine.
And so anyway, it has all the same information.
Sure.
I have just one question. You have some customer from service providers that you get with who already have the satellite 6 in production.
Yes. So actually we have a fairly large service provider, cloud service provider. They're not a public reference, I can't mention their name, but they're managing 2,000 satellite systems with, in a multi-tenant environment with little to no issue. Yeah. They definitely don't have 6.0 anymore. We did everything possible to get 6.0 off the market. What's up?
What disaster recovery policies are you using in Satellite 6?
Was that to me or to Will?
To Will.
Okay.
So,
Would you repeat the question for folks?
yeah, the question was what disaster recovery procedures we're using for 6. So, I think 6.2 has an updated backup restore procedure.
So we have Catello backup
Yeah.
in both 6.1 and 6.2.
Okay, so I couldn't remember when it came out, but I know we have it instantiated, so we're using that to do our backups. There is a document on doing an active-active cluster, which I am looking at that you put out, somebody put out, and we're looking
it's
at that.
under review
Okay.
right now by Will,
Okay.
but it's going to be published more or less in tandem with 6.2's release.
Okay, and so we've been looking at that too. I have not come up with the perfect solution for us yet, but I think it largely depends on your environment, what you have available. But my intent is to go active-active with Satellite 6.2. So.
Yes, sir.
So this question's mostly for you. It sounds like you kind of did this on your own. So how long did it take? And in retrospect, what would have been the relative merits of having sort of professional services or speed that process up?
I've used Red Hat Consulting in the past extensively, and they're a great resource. So I would highly recommend that if your comfort level is not there with Satellite. Like I said, I've been using it for a long time. I'm really comfortable with it. I have some good friends on the Satellite team, so I kind of know who to pester if I need something. And it's kind of handy. But really, the documentation, I mean, I can't stress enough. They've done such a great job on it. It's there. But if you're even the least bit wary, I would say professional services would absolutely be a great option for getting the SOE instituted, when you put it in.
So one way I like to look at this transition is that it really gives you it's a forcing function for you to relook at how you're doing things and step back and say, can we, we've let all this legacy scatter about in our environments and whatnot. Now's a great time to step back and look at the architecture, see if you can improve it, how you're managing your gold builds, your standard builds, and so I encourage you to look at. Yeah, I know a lot of you going, gosh, I have to plan this and coordinate with so many people, but it really is an opportunity to really better your environment. I think, and set you up for the next years of change.
Okay, that's like 7 questions. Okay. All right, so I'm going to repeat them all for everyone who didn't hear it. So one of the questions were, I'm currently a Satellite 5 user. I currently support systems in a DMZ. I have an information security team who nags me every time I need to open up a port. With Satellite 5, I had a few ports to open. With Satellite 6, it looks like I have a few more. What gives, right? So the architecture of the Satellite capsule is similar to that of the proxy. Okay, the satellites and proxies are the only systems required to talk to the satellite server. So the clients in those networks don't require additional firewall ports. So that's a good thing. The satellite capsule does in fact require more ports than the proxy because in fact it's doing more things. Right? Previously, we did content and config management over HTTPS. Right? That's basically what we did with a proxy. You could do provisioning over a proxy, but there were a lot of hacks and foul words involved to do so. Whereas the satellite capsule can do provisioning. Okay, so there are more ports that are needed to be open. Based upon a firewall guide, I think a few of them are bidirectional. So you will need it's all well documented, but you will need those ports to be open to leverage those features.
And just to follow on that, I don't want to talk roadmap too far, but we are looking at ways to make that a little slicker. You know, we looked at VNC possibly, or building, or VPN, building that into the product at some level. But all this stuff is speculative at the moment, and we're investigating because we hear that problem and we realize that people have to argue with their networking guys and the security guys all the time.
So the gentleman right there with the awesome beard. 6.2 training. Okay, so the Red Hat Public-Facing Satellite course, which is RH403, based upon my last conversation with the training folks, they will be updating it for 6.2. That will happen at some point in the summer or early fall. So they updated it for 6.1. They plan on updating it for 6.2 as well. Summer of this year. They won't update it until I get them a GA build, so I got to do that first. So sometime after that, I would expect 90 to 100 days after that. 90 to 120 days after that is what I'm expecting. It's kind of how I perceived what they gave me. It wouldn't be next year, it'd be this year. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right.
Small follow-on is the learning services. Are you targeting that? So the subscription learning services?
Yeah, so it'll be available through that modality as well. All right, I'm going to switch to the other side of the room. Gentleman right there.
We get all these upstream items into satellite now. And right now, my satellite server's on a VM, and it's every so often I got increasing resources for disk. Now, all these other products come in. Are they going to keep on being disk hungry, CPU hungry?
Well, satellite has generally always been disk hungry. I mean, that's not a new thing. We do have a feature that we're targeting for a future release of Satellite called Lazy Sync, which allows you to download only the content you need. So if all those old versions of Bash, the ones that got shell shocked that you don't need anymore, why am I really keeping those on disk? If I don't need them. So you might get some relief there. As far as resources on a satellite server, satellite does a whole lot of things, right? And it does a whole lot more in 6. The one thing I would look at, especially in any environment of scale, is as you scale out that environment, look at the opportunity to bring in those satellite capsules to offload that work, because not only does it conserve the resources on your satellite server and you don't have one big thing that's vertically integrated, it lets you spread out those resources, but it also lets you deliver better quality of service because you're now moving content and configuration as close to those clients as possible. So on the disk space side, you might get some relief with Lazy Sync. On the resource side, I mean, that's a product of what you're managing and how much you're managing and how you have it architected.
So Brian Carney is our engineering manager for Satellite, and
we want to let him sit there in silence. We don't want people to know who he is.
But I'm sure I'm sure none of you have heard that.
No, he's like, Rich, you're giving me credit. We removed Elasticsearch, damn it.
All right, so what Brian was saying is that it removed a major resource hog on the box, Elasticsearch, and it improved a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
Will, I heard you say that you're catching monthly on Thursdays. I'm doing that as well.
Congratulations.
I think you're copying me. I'm doing that in the mornings. And are you breaking things in the mornings, or do you?
Well, I'm not going to say what I was about to say.
Both times?
So far, successfully. So far, our general practice is that we have a 24-hour window prior to a set time on Thursday morning that we trickle everything out. So with 5, we just trickle out whatever errata is available. We've been using the content view methodology as far as migrating content between our lab and our prod environments for quite some time since that was introduced. I can't remember when that was, but so we do that in the wee hours of the morning, and our lab environments are rebooted around 5 a.m. local to wherever they are. So.
Since we're pretty similar right now, but just to put a little bit of pressure on, I'm thinking of I would like to switch things to Tuesday, Thursday, weekly fashion, because a smaller on average, most times it would be a much smaller job.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
It's simpler for you
Sure.
to know, oh, it's Tuesday morning or it's Thursday morning instead of.
Well, the great thing is that so what he's talking about is just scheduling, managing, making patching predictable, and building policy around that.
Right.
And the fact that you're doing that is such. I mean, that's the whole reason Satellite exists, is to build discipline with your team on how to manage systems and allow you to build policy that's not egregious, that is predictable. And you're talking about moving from a 1 day a week to potentially 2 day a week patch schedule, and
2 days a week. If
that's great.
you're patching weekly and you skip a week, just
No big deal.
patch weekly.
Right.
If you're patching monthly and you skip a month, that's a long way.
All right.
How we doing on time? So let's take a question from the other side.
Which person? There's like 3 hands up. Okay, you.
In the middle.
That hand went up real fast.
I was curious about the spacewalk project. In the past, I could download it to look just like Satellite 5, but now Satellite 6 is multiple projects. So do I just format, or how could you kind of address that?
Yeah, so if you're using, if you wanted to use the Upstream for Satellite 6, it is Foreman with the Catello plugin. Okay, so you yum install Foreman or yum install Catello. Actually, Brian, have we changed it since we did the scenario-based installer? What's it Upstream, the package name? Okay, so yeah, yum install Catello, Catello installer with the right switches, and off you go.
So the Foreman design is very modular, and everything's a plugin, and Catello is just a plugin, ultimately.
All right, at the back.
Yeah, we have a great deal of clone channels out there, and I'm wondering if there's any mechanism to help with conversion of content.
So yes and no. So the question was, I have a ridiculous amount of clone channels, and I want to make them as equivalent as possible in Satellite 6. So the transition tools can take those clone channels and model them as content views. So if you really want to look at migration as a 2-step process, you could do it that way, right? You could use the transition tools to make your Satellite 6 content views look like your Satellite 5 clone channels. You can do that, right, as a migration step. That way you can get the systems into Satellite 6 without necessarily changing their view of the world, right? And you can also do that in parallel to building out building out the best practices Satellite 6 stuff, using content views properly with content view filters, and then you can just switch them from the old content view over to your new, better Satellite 6 version.
So these two methodologies that he's talking about, they're
not binary.
They're not binary. So you can use some of the stuff and say, hey, I want to get my clone channels over, and I want to play with it. I want to understand how the new system works. And so you can compare like to like and really start playing with what this means. And then you might want to redesign it, or maybe it's good. It's what you want, and you can move on.
All right, so take 2 more questions, and take that gentleman, and then one on this side. So the gentleman in the green, you'll go next. Sir?
In relation to that content view for clone channel, is there a switch or a command that you can use in Hammer, similar to what you did spacewalk clone by date to create channels?
Yes. So that's a native component of a content view. So content views have what are called content view filters. And those content view filters can do the same things that clone by date used to do. So I can include or exclude packages, package groups, errata by date, errata by type, and errata by name. So basically I can say I want to do rel 7 plus optional, plus extras, plus my custom tools, and I only want to include security errata to this date. And that's defined as part of the content view. It's part of its metadata. It's part of that immutable version that lives forever. So one of the big differences between a content view and a clone channel is that after you create a clone channel in Satellite 5, if you were to leave and someone else comes along and says, how did we build this clone channel? Please hope you kept the JSON files around that you use for Spacewalk Clone by Date, because otherwise you can't tell. Whereas with a content view, you can look at a version of a content view and say, what is in this thing? You see the repos, you see the filters, so you understand exactly what it is. So to answer your question, yes, and you can do all of that via Hammer.
You can do security and both.
Neither or both. And enhancements.
Yeah, I mean,
You can exclude enhancements, you can exclude errata by bug fix and by security. So if you want to do security only, that's fine.
So, hold on one second. So we're starting to run out of time, so I'll just make sure we get to the next guy here.
Yep.
But the concept of a content view is really you take a repo and you layer on filters, and it's truly a view of that repo. And so it's much more flexible for how we move forward in the future. Let's take
So the last question, gentleman in the green.
When you're transitioning, can you have the client attached to both Satellite 5 and Satellite 6 at the same time?
You can. I will highly recommend you do not do such a thing. Very bad things will happen.
Yeah, don't do that.
And the reality of it is that there's probably not ever really a good reason to have a single client registered to both. You either are going to be in one paradigm or the other. That's kind of one of the reasons why Bootstrap exists, is that once you commit on that client, you say, I want to move it, you move the whole thing. It's in one or the other, but never both. The tools will actually complain. Like if you run Subscription Manager and you're still registered to Satellite 5, it'll loudly complain like, hey dude, bad things will happen. There are dragons here. So we don't recommend that.
All right, guys, that wraps it up. I appreciate it. We're always around.
Thank you folks for coming, and come see me if you got questions.